I was pregnant and set to be a single mom, but when I went into labor, I asked my mom to come with me to the hospital for support, but she refused and told me to figure it out because she wanted to visit my golden sister, her top priority, as she got ditched by her BF of 2 weeks. My mom is now furious that I didn't select her as my baby's godmother and is badmouthing me and calling me names. So I, 27 female, gave birth to my daughter a couple of weeks ago. 2 days back, I hosted her christening ceremony at church and I also chose her 2 godparents, but now my mom is very upset that I did not pick her to be a godparent and neither did I invite her to the christening. I have my reasons for that though. So I'm a single parent by choice. I had my daughter with my ex-boyfriend and after I found out that I was pregnant, I told him that I wanted to get married before the baby was born. We had been dating for 3 years at the time and had been living together for 2 years, so I didn't think that there was anything unreasonable about me asking to get married. Unfortunately, he did not agree with me and said that he wanted a little more time to think about whether he was ready to get married to me or not. But I was not willing to wait anymore, so I told him that he could either propose or we were done. I was fine with being a single mom and even before I had given him that ultimatum, I knew that we were going to break up because which happy marriage has ever started with an ultimatum? Anyway, within a couple of weeks, he had moved out and I was left on my own. Initially, he had told me that he was willing to be a father, but after we broke up, he told me that he was not ready to be a father either. So I spoke to a couple of friends, got a lawyer involved and he's going to be paying child support, but I'm gonna have full custody and he can visit when he wants to. But so far, he hasn't bothered. I guess you guys can tell that I wasn't exactly happy about how the situation had turned out at the beginning of my pregnancy. My boyfriend had dumped me because even after 3 years of being together, he was not ready to marry me. And on top of that, he had also told me that he was not ready to be a father either. I was in a really bad space mentally, and I really needed somebody to be there for me. Ordinarily, people's families would be there by their side under circumstances like these, but the only people who bothered to look out for me were my friends. My 2 best friends from high school, let's call them Maria and Kelly, visited me as frequently as possible because they also had their own lives and work to attend to. Even when I went into labor, they were the only 2 people by my side. So, naturally, when it was time to pick godparents, I obviously picked the 2 of them to be my daughter's godmother. It did not even occur to me for a second that I should pick my mother for several reasons. The biggest being that I had called her to be there for me when I went into labor and she had flat out refused. I had been living by myself throughout my pregnancy and it hasn't been easy. My friends had even offered to come stay with me as I got closer to my due date, but I couldn't let them do that, especially since Maria is married with a 3-year-old son of her own and Kelly's workplace is way too far from mine. Even then they had tried to convince me to let them take care of me, but like a fool I had been counting on my mother since she had been quite involved in my life ever since she had found out that I was pregnant and she was going to be a grandma. Before that, my mom and I hadn't been particularly close because both my parents had favorites. Her favorite had always been my younger sister Hannah. After we moved out for college and stuff, my family would only get together for the holidays or birthdays, but at least we stayed in touch. But then my dad passed away a couple of years ago and after his funeral I don't know. We just stopped talking. I mean, Hannah and my mom still talked to each other. They were pretty close and they would even hang out frequently. But whenever I met them, it felt like there was an invisible wall between us. It wasn't shocking to me or anything. They always had been one unit even when my dad was alive. Me and my dad were in one unit and Hannah and my mom were in another. That's just the way it goes. And with time, I accepted the fact that Hannah was more important to my mom and I couldn't do anything to change it. But I did find it very strange when I announced my pregnancy on social media and immediately, my mom started being nicer to me. She started making efforts to keep in touch with me. She would even visit me and call me sometimes, which was very rare previously. And in the last few weeks of my pregnancy, I felt like I really needed somebody to be there for me to help me out and stuff. So I called my mother up and I asked her to come over to stay with me. She promised me that she would, but at the very last moment, she canceled and told me that it would be impossible for her to come live with me because there had been a lot of theft and robberies happening in her neighborhood, and she didn't feel safe leaving the house without anybody to take care of it. I didn't know if she was telling me the truth or if she was just making it all up, but I knew that I was disappointed though I did not pursue it and I just left it at that. So that's how I ended up being completely on my own even in the last few weeks of my pregnancy. But I made it work somehow. However, when I went into labor and my contractions started, my mother was the first person I called and I told her that she had to be here with me because I was going into labor. At first, she told me that it wouldn't be possible because she was busy at work, but it was a Sunday. So I didn't understand what kind of work she could possibly have. I started bickering with her on the phone because I was already feeling quite irritable, and then she finally told me that she couldn't be there for me and I had to figure it out on my own because she had to be there for Hannah. Apparently Hannah had moved in with her a couple of weeks ago, which is also why she hadn't been able to come stay with me during the last few weeks of my pregnancy. She told me that Hannah had been dumped by her boyfriend recently and she was in a very bad state of mind, so my mom needed to be there for her and it was her top priority apparently. I literally could not understand how anything could be more important than her daughter going into labor, but I did not want to argue with her anymore. So after she explained the reason for her absence to me, I hung up and decided to call Maria and Kelly instead. Maria showed up within 15 minutes, drove me to the hospital, and Kelly showed up directly at the hospital. They stayed there with me throughout until the baby was born and even helped me settle in for the next couple of days until I was fine with being on my own. Of course, I can never repay that favor to them, but I can at least make them godmothers to my daughter. My mom, on the other hand, contacted me one whole week after my baby was born only to ask me if I would be fine with her visiting that day. She was acting very casual about the whole thing as if nothing had happened and that really rubbed me the wrong way, so I did not respond to her. In the evening, when she did show up, I pretended that I was not home until she finally left. She tried calling me several times after that and kept texting me, but I never replied to her. What's funny was that she did not feel the need to apologize to me in any of her messages or even address the situation and kept pretending as if everything was fine. But after one point, I guess she realized that I was upset with her. However, instead of apologizing to me, she got Hannah to text me and try to defend her instead. If anything, that only made the whole situation even worse because when Hannah texted me, she started off by telling me that she was really sorry that because of her, our mother could not be there for me when I went into labor. But at the same time, she said that I needed to understand the fact that she had been dumped by somebody she had loved for a really long time after only dating him for 2 weeks. Apparently, she had this crush on a guy from her college and back then, he had had a girlfriend so she never made a move on him. But she was never really able to get over her crush on that guy so she kept in touch with him, stayed friends with him, and kept falling for him even after they had graduated. Now recently, that guy and his girlfriend ended up breaking up a couple of weeks ago. Within 3 weeks of their breakup, that guy decided to ask Hannah out and she agreed. They went strong for 2 weeks, but then it fizzled out and the guy told her that he just wanted to stay friends because he was not ready for another serious relationship just after getting out of such a serious long-term relationship a couple of weeks before. That did not seem acceptable to Hannah as she started fighting with him, which ended up with him blocking her everywhere and calling her crazy and psychotic for taking a fling so seriously. Under normal circumstances, I would have felt bad for her but honestly, she brought this onto herself. She's 25. She's obviously not a child and she should have realized that he was just using her as a rebound to try and get over his ex. I couldn't bring myself to sympathize with her and on top of that, I just felt really angry that because she couldn't handle breaking up with a guy she had only been with for 2 weeks, our mother had decided to skip the birth of her granddaughter after pretending to be nice to me for 9 entire months. So that message just made everything worse because I started disliking both of them a lot more than I already did. It was pretty much the last straw, so I blocked both of them everywhere and then they did not make any more attempts to contact me either. This was about a week ago and a couple of days back, I finally had the christening ceremony for my daughter at the church that my family has been a part of for years. It was a really small and private ceremony with just a couple of friends and a few cousins and my aunt who I'm close to, and I know for a fact that none of these people ratted me out. So it must have been somebody from the church who told my mom about the christening ceremony and the fact that I had named my daughters godmothers, and she obviously hadn't made the cut. Anyway, I'm guessing one of the women from the choir must have told her because she knows them. I don't know who it is, but I'll make sure that I report them because that was totally unnecessary, and it has caused a lot of drama. Because the day after the christening, after she found out, my mom visited me. And even though I pretended that I was not at home, I guess she figured out that I must have been on maternity leave and refused to leave even after half an hour of standing right outside my door. She just kept ringing the doorbell over and over again and I was trying to get my daughter to sleep, so it started to get annoying after a while. I decided to open the door and finally talk it out with her so that at least she would leave me alone. When I opened the door, she confronted me about not being invited to the christening and not being named the godmother, and I told her that I had already made my decision. There was nothing that she could do to change it, so we had a bit of an argument. She tried to explain to me that she was only trying to be there for Hannah because obviously she was going through something. She said that at least I had my friends by my side, whereas Hannah could not even share her issues with her friends because they had specifically asked her not to go out with that guy and she still had. So she knew that they were not going to sympathize with her. She only had our mom to speak to at the time and she was doing really badly, which is why she had literally moved in with my mom because she couldn't bear to stay alone. And being the older sister, my mom told me that I should have been more understanding instead of being so heartless and self-centered, but like I said, I had no sympathy for Hannah because I knew that she had been Extremely stupid, and I told my mom the same thing, and neither did I have any sympathy for my mom because she had made her choice when she refused to be there for me when I went into labor, or actually even before that when she refused to honor her commitment and come to stay with me in the last few weeks of my pregnancy. Then before the argument could go on further, I shut the door and I told her to leave because I had to take care of my baby and I could not waste my time arguing with her over pointless things like this. She eventually left. But now I've heard from a couple of my relatives that she's been bad about telling me and calling me names on social media and has been posting about how evil and self-centered I am. I have blocked her, so I can't see those posts, but I've seen the screenshots, and I can tell that she's upset. A couple of my relatives have reached out to me to tell me that maybe I should just talk to Hannah and my mother, and while on the inside, I don't really feel like I've done anything wrong. I feel like I need to get a second opinion because due to my pregnancy, I have to admit I've become a lot more emotional and irritable. So did I make the right call for not inviting my mom to the christening of my daughter or naming her Godmother because she refused to be there for me when I went into labor and stayed with my sister instead? Edit. So here are the posts she made. Since some of you wanted to see exactly what was being said, the first post she made was this: I've done everything in my power to be a good mother to both my daughters, but I guess some people just can't see that. I can't be everywhere all at once, that's true. So I chose to be there for the daughter who did not have anybody else by her side while she was dealing with the worst kind of heartbreak, and I guess that makes me the biggest villain in the world. But what does that make the daughter who cut me out of her life over something as small and petty as this and did not even allow me to be a part of my granddaughter's christening? I think heartless would be the word. The second post, just a few hours after the first: I feel nothing but pain for Hannah. Even after everything that has happened, she still has been holding out in the hope that maybe my other daughter will cut us some slack and try to understand what she had been going through. But I know that it's pointless. Hannah does not want to be the reason why I never get to be the godmother to my first granddaughter, and I know that she is not the problem. I just wish I could get her to see that and stop blaming herself for whatever has happened. And I also wish that some people would stop being so blinded by their ego and narcissism that they aren't even able to understand their sister's pain. The last one was yesterday. Karma always strikes back. I'll see you when you, as a mother, go through this, and I'll forgive you for everything because a child can be selfish but a mother can't. These are the major 3 posts that she put up, along with a bunch of sad quotes about how difficult it is to be a mom and of whoever has been reaching out to her personally to ask about what exactly is going on. She's taken great pains to explain all the drama in detail and make me look bad in it. Update 1. I've thought about the situation a lot from a 1,000,000 different angles, and all I can say is I don't really think that I'm at fault here. I don't think that I'm being over-emotional or that I'm being irritable for no reason. I think that what I did was perfectly rational and reasonable. My mom did not want to be present there when I went into labor, and that was a decision that she made consciously on purpose. I don't care about the reasons because frankly they are not worth caring about. She's trying to make it seem like my sister is some huge victim, but honestly she created that situation for herself. The fact that even her friends had told her not to go out with that guy because they knew that he was just using her as a rebound, but she went ahead and allowed herself to be used like that. I don't think she has anybody to blame for that. And I know a couple of people misunderstood me in my previous post. I'm not blaming her entirely. I'm not saying the older fault is hers, but surely she's a 25-year-old and she has enough brains to think for herself. She should have known what she was getting into. She should have the common sense of knowing that just after breaking up with somebody he had been in a long-term relationship with for so many years, he was obviously not going to be looking for anything serious. He had probably not even healed from his previous relationship, and yet she went ahead because she had been infatuated with him for a long time. I don't know much about this situation, but it has nothing to do with what I went through. My mom is the one who was trying to make it seem like Hannah's situation had anything to do with why she did not show up, but honestly speaking, it was all her. She did not show up because she did not want to, period. That's all that there is, and there was no need for her to drag Hannah into any of this. I don't even have any issues with her before this. Even when my mom had told me that she was going to be staying home with Hannah while I went into labor, I wasn't holding a grudge against Hannah for that. She had about as much control over the situation as I did. It was my mom who made the choice and then threw Hannah under the bus. And I'm sorry, but she can't have her cake and eat it too. She can either choose to be true to herself or she can choose to come off as a nice person. But she can't do both. She chose to be true to herself. She chose to be with the daughter that mattered more to her, and that's completely fine. Of course, it hurt me, especially given the fact that she had actually been trying to get along with me in the past couple of months, but that was probably because I was pregnant, and she was hoping to build a relationship with her granddaughter. I had allowed my expectations to get high in spite of knowing the truth that when it really came down to it, my mom preferred Hannah and not me. So that one's on me. I shouldn't have allowed myself to feel like my mom was actually going to try and really be there for me, especially when I'm competing with Hannah. But ultimately, I didn't even say anything to her. I did not confront her. I did not ask her to explain her actions, and I did not even get mad at her in a way that would affect her. I just silently cut her out of my life, and that was it. That was how I chose to deal with the situation. I think that was pretty reasonable and dignified, so she had no reason to go out of her way to make such a public spectacle out of everything. She was the one who went out of her way to explain to me why she was not there for me when I went into labor block. She was the one who made Hannah text me, and she was the one who confronted me when she realized that she had not been invited to the christening ceremony or been named as a godmother. But this expectation that I was going to entertain any of this after she had not even bothered to be there for me at any point in my life, that's just ridiculous. And that's when I lost my temper. And I don't think I did anything wrong by refusing to engage with her. So of course, I'm not going to be apologizing for anything, and neither do I need to feel sorry for her. She made her decisions. So now she's going to have to face the consequences. It's as simple as that. And all of my relatives who are poking their noses into this situation deliberately just to be a part of the drama can all take a hike as well. I've just given birth to my daughter a couple of weeks ago. I do not have time or patience to deal with nonsense like this. I told all of them that I don't want to hear anything to do with my mom, and even if she makes 1,000 more posts, I still won't care, and I don't think that I need to explain myself either. I've done whatever I thought was appropriate, and if people don't like that, tough luck. After I was curt with them, the relatives who had been texting me stopped, and some of them even blocked me, probably choosing to believe my mother's version of things because I wasn't engaging with them and playing into the drama as they had expected. And honestly, I really don't care. Update 2. Hi. So about 1 week has passed since I originally posted here, and I've received a lot of love and support from a lot of people in the comments, so I'm really thankful for that. At a time when my own family has turned their backs on me, I think this means a lot more to me, and I'm truly grateful. Anyway, now that a week has passed and I have not responded to any of the posts that my mother has made, I guess she has realized that she's not going to get anything out of trying to create drama on social media. Except for the fake sympathy from other relatives, she doesn't stand to gain anything. So she has taken down all those posts, and this morning, she decided to pay me a visit again, even though she knows that I don't want to see her. I think I've made that pretty clear, but she just doesn't seem to want to take the hint. And on top of that, today, she brought Hannah along with her as well, and when I refused to open the door, they told me that they wanted to apologize to me, but I was in no mood because I knew that even if I do open the door and they apologize to me, they would eventually want to clear the air and stuff, and that would mean discussing everything that had happened, and I did not have the emotional or physical energy for that because dealing with a newborn is not exactly a walk in the park. So I told him that I really wanted them to leave because I was not in the correct state of mind right now. I was really busy with my daughter and I just put her down for a nap. So I really did not feel like talking to anybody at the moment, and I just wanted to get some rest. Even if they did want to apologize, they would have to do it later, and I would tell them when I was free to talk to them. I tried to be as polite to them as possible because I knew that if I was rude to them, they would start yelling and stuff, and I did not want my daughter to wake up because of that. But I guess I really shouldn't have bothered to keep my cool because they started yelling anyway. They started telling me that I was being disrespectful because they had driven all the way to my place and I had refused to even open the door to let them in. For the record, I hadn't asked them to do any of that, and it really boiled my blood that they were being so loud. I could see that my daughter was getting fussy, and at that moment, I couldn't care less about anything that my mom and my sister thought of me. I opened the door and I told them that if they did not get off my property right that instant, I was going to call the cops and I was going to make sure that I got a restraining order against them somehow. They looked shocked, probably because they hadn't expected me to fight back or something, but I was not going to be taking their BS anymore. My mom tried to argue, but thankfully, Hannah seemed to understand that I was serious about my threat and was not just saying it for the sake of intimidation. So she started dragging my mom away, but even while she was leaving, she did not stop cursing at me and calling me names. It doesn't matter though, because now she's gone and I bet that she's going to think twice before showing up again. Even if she does, I'll call the cops before anything happens because I'm really done with them. Today, I didn't do it because I didn't want to take it to extremes and take such a drastic step, but next time, I'm not going to hesitate because right now it's becoming a problem for my daughter, and anything that becomes a problem for my child, I'm not going to tolerate it, at least in this way. I'm not like my mom because even though she doesn't really care about me, she's like this with Hannah. So I hope that she understands what I'm doing and why I'm doing it and stays the heck away from us. Update 3. Hi. I know that I've been missing in action for a really long time now since my last post was almost 2 months back, but in my defense, I've been quite busy. Anyway, life's been going pretty great for me. Maria and Kelly drop in quite frequently to play with my daughter, and I've not been contacted by my mom or Hannah in the past couple of weeks. Hannah kept trying to reach out to me for a few weeks following the last update, telling me that even though she had cussed me out, our mom was really upset about everything that had gone wrong. But because of her age, she was too egotistical to admit that she was wrong. So Hannah wanted me to somehow try and talk to our mom first so we would be able to sort out the situation and she would be able to build a relationship with her granddaughter. But I didn't respond no matter how many messages she sent me, and because I had blocked her original account, she would have to keep coming up with new ones. So eventually, I guess she got tired and stopped trying altogether, and I'm really grateful that she did, because if my mom wants me to forgive her, she needs to apologize to me first, and then maybe I'll consider giving her the opportunity to be a grandma, but for now I'm completely happy with my life as it is.